Okay, nice to see everyone. We are, Be'ezrat Hashem, starting just the last couple of words on He Amud Aleph, moving on to He Amud Bet. So we had a whole bunch of different possibilities how to learn what the source for this halakha is that chametz becomes asur min Torah on the 14th of Nisan at midday, on halachic chatzot hayom. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva, let's review quickly. We're going to go back up for a moment towards the bottom of He Amud Aleph, where the first wide line towards the bottom. Rabbi Akiva, he says, this is his explanation. And not tzarich. He says, you don't need the previous proofs. I'll give you a very simple proof. Hareu omer, ach, bayom harishon, tashbitu seor mibatechem. Says Rabbi Akiva, the Torah says ach, which means we earlier explained it means a part of the day. On the first day, tashbitu seor mibatechem, destroy seor, yeast, chametz, from your homes. Uchtiv, and it also says kol melacha lo yaseh bahem. On the days on the Chagim days, on the holy days of Pesach, you cannot do melacha. So then, umatzinu lav arash melacha, and the way to destroy chametz is burning it, and burning is an av melacha. Melacha is one of the 39 melachos. So therefore, how in the world do you fulfill the mitzvah of destroying it? Not if you want to cook, use fire for cooking. So that's the Torah says ochel nefesh. You could use a fire. You could burn, right? But for other things you cannot. Here you burning the chametz. It's not for eating. It's for something else. It should not be permissible. How does the Torah expect you to fulfill the mitzvah of tashbitu? Must be, right? Must be that. Therefore means erev Yom Tov on the 14th. That's the proof that Rabbi Akiva brings down. Now go to the last two lines of this page. This is where we left off yesterday. Amar Rava. Comes along Rava in the Talmud and says, based on Rabbi Akiva, Shema Amina, Mida Rabbi Akiva, Telat Shema Amina. From the way Rabbi Akiva proved this point, you could infer three interesting halachot that we could have otherwise not been sure about, or otherwise we could have debated about. Okay? Number one, Shema Amina, first of all you learn, En Bi'ur Hametz, Ela Serefa. If chametz could have been destroyed in other ways, for example, you take bread and you crumb it into tiny, tiny, small powdered pieces, and you throw the powder into the wind, onto the Dead Sea, Yam Melach, right? If all those formulas constitute biur chametz, there's no proof here. The Torah says to destroy it. How could I destroy it? Simply crumb it. Must be, Rabbi Akiva learned, the only way to fulfill the mitzvah of tashbitu, of destroying chametz, is burning it. There's a mahloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva must have held like Rabbi Yehuda, who learns the only way to fulfill the mitzvah of tashbitu, of destroying chametz, is burning it. Number one. Ushma mina. Furthermore, you see, havara lehaleg yatzat. Now, what is this talking about? Let's give you background for this. The Torah says, when it comes to Shabbat, don't do melacha. It does not specify what melacha is. We understand from tradition, melacha is the 39 things that were done to build the Beit HaMikdash. Those are 39 things that the Torah forbids on Shabbat. Okay? And that does automatically include ignition and burning, because they used to do that for different things, purposes, in the Mishkan building process. Okay. Now, but the Torah goes on and says, Lo tevar esh b'chol esh moshvotim b'chol Shabbat. The Torah says specifically, don't ignite a fire, don't burn a fire. Why are you telling me that? I know that because it's one of the 39 melachot. So there's mahloket Tanaim, why the Torah is repeating or singling out burning. Is it coming to tell you that, yes, burning is one of those melachot, but you might have thought, if I tell you don't do melacha is things that are to build a Mishkan, perhaps to mechalel Shabbat, you have to do all 39, and then you say you did what the Mishkan was done for, Chal Shabbat. How do we know that if you do just one melacha, that's grounds for Chilul Shabbat, and all the consequences, by the Torah singling out one of them? I was telling you even one is bad enough for Chilul Shabbat, right? That's called Havara lehaleg yatzat. Havara is being singled out, being mentioned. In order to discern and to separate each melacha from the other ones, tell you that one of them is bad enough to be Chilul Shabbat. Another...
A huge shas machlokas
Yeah, doesn't.
Okay, so
Yeah.
is this the one and only proof of that?
No, there's no proof. We always see Rabbi Akiva held that way. Doesn't prove that it was right or it was wrong.
Okay.
Right? He held like Rabbi Yossi, basically, right? Rabbi Akiva.
So
right?
what is this? What is the outcome? Is it?
Rabbi Akiva held that way. That's nothing practical. Now you could argue with him, you can hold like him. All the Rabbi Akiva at least holds like the ones that L'chalik, right? The other option is to have aram le'lav yatzat, but the Torah is singling out how I said don't turn on fire. The Torah is actually demoting avara, demoting this melacha of ignition of making a fire, no longer to be on the same footing as the rest of the melachot. It becomes just a regular mitzvah lo ta'aseh, will not get sekila, will not get stoning as a consequence. That's another opinion.
So this is basically the only place where it says that it's chalek.
No, it's all over the place.
Other places also.
Yeah, right. Always Rabbi Akiva, because he called it an av melacha, he held like Rabbi Yosef that havara did not turn. The pasuk didn't turn havara into a lo ta'aseh. It does remain as an av melacha, and Torah is saying is single out to tell you that every av melacha by itself is good enough to be mechal Shabbat. And thirdly, ushma amina. And thirdly, the way he proved his case, you see another inference that's very important. La amrenan. We do not say ho'il ve'utra havara letzorech utra name shelo letzorech. So what happened here? When you find an exception to the rule built in when it comes to melachot of Yom Tov, what do you find in this case? You find the Torah says don't do any melacha. However, kol asher yaseh lechol, but the things that are done for the sake of sustaining yourself, food preparation, you could do on Yom Tov. Right? Okay, that's an exception to the rule. Okay, carrying is learned also to be permissible on Yom Tov. You can carry Yom Tov if you need to carry. Okay. Now, if you carry your keys home from the synagogue or vice versa, that keys need not be serving the purpose of eating. Certainly, if you carry your keys from home to shul, you're not coming to shul to eat. You don't need the keys to eat, right? Okay. So the answer is when it comes to carrying, there's a rule that says ho'il, because of the fact that the Torah permitted carrying for specific purposes. The Torah also permitted the whole category carrying on Yom Tov as long as there's any need whatsoever is permissible. Now, if he said the same thing by burning, then once the Torah permits burning for the sake of cooking, any burning on Yom Tov becomes permissible. Rabbi Akiva has no proof anymore. What's the proof? The Torah said to burn the chametz, so you can burn anyway. What's the problem? He said, no, it's an av melacha. You know why? Because he's sticking to the fact that Torah said av melacha. The Torah said don't burn on Yom Tov, only for cooking only. We don't extend it to other things as an automatic result of the pasuk. Okay, fine. Let's go on. Tan Rabbanan. We're going to analyze these concepts and these sort of the sources furthermore. The rabbis thought, Shiv'at yamim seor lo yimatzeh bevatechem. The Torah says 7 days, seor should not be found in your homes. Okay, Matalmud Lomar. What is this teaching us? Didn't the Torah already tell us? Lo yara lecha seor, chametz, b'chol gevulecha. The Torah says that seor and chametz should not be seen by you, or should not be seen to you in your gevul, in your borders, in your dwellings. So what does the Torah have to come back again and say 7 days seor should not be found? What's the point here? Okay, the answer is the following: Lefish ne'emar lo yara lecha seor. How does the Torah express the word, the prohibition of owning seor? It says, Lo yara'eh lecha seor. It should not be seen to you. What is the lecha? Lecha means belongs to you. It's yours. I would make the following basic, logical inference. Shelecha yataroeh. The chametz that belongs to you is prohibited for you to see and to deal with. Aval ataroeh shel acherim v'shel gavoah. But you're allowed to see, otherwise technically handle. Chametz that doesn't belong to you at all, what is it? Either chametz belongs to other people or belongs to Hashem. How does chametz belong to Hashem? Somebody has a pile of chametz and they make it hekdesh. They consecrate it to the Bet HaMikdash. That's considered. It's called shel gavoah. It doesn't belong to people anymore, to human beings anymore. And what happens? That you're allowed to see. Okay, Yachol. So you would think that means very interesting. Now, once you start to make exceptions, and you see that seeing, you see the word lecha is exclusive, you're going to say that the word yera'eh is also exclusive, I would think, yatmin, that you're allowed to hide the chametz. As long as you don't see it, don't throw the chametz out, don't sell it, don't destroy it, just keep it in your property, right? And hide it so you don't see it. I would have thought that's acceptable. V'kabel piktonot min hanochri, or if the chametz does not belong to you, that you'll be allowed to receive a pikadon, a deposit item. That's chametz by a non-Jew. Non-Jew comes to you and says, "I'm going on vacation. Can you please hold on to this box full of bread, precious bread, let's just say. I want you to hold on to it for me. As long as it's not yours, I would think, it's not lecha, you can hold on to it." Talmud lomar, that's why the Torah repeats itself and says, "Lo yimatzeh," should not be found. It shouldn't be found at all. Even if you're hiding it, shouldn't be found in your property. And even if it belongs to somebody else, it shouldn't be found in your property. We're coming to exclude those two possibilities. Now, Enli, Ela ben Ochri, Shelo kibashto, ben sharoim lecha behatzer. By virtue of coming to tell you that a chametz of a non-Jew is also a problem for you to hold on to, okay, now let's analyze the different categories, different levels of a non-Jewish person's chametz that could come under your hands, so to speak, in your hands, right? You have to worry about. I would think, what case is the Torah coming to tell you that it's problematic? Only a non-Jew, shelo kibashto, that you haven't dominated. And what does that mean? Simply that means that a non-Jew who lives as a free non-Jewish person, he has no Jewish allegiance, he has no allegiance or obligation to you, and therefore you have no right to enforce anything on him. And doesn't live with you in the same chatzer. Nochri shekibashto, however, a nochri that you have dominated, what does that mean? It means a ger toshav, a non-Jew who gives up avodah zarah and comes to live in the Jewish community, in a Jewish chatzer, in a Jewish courtyard, with Jewish neighbors, and therefore he's taking on many Jewish observances, not because he's Jewish, because it's just as a way of living in the community. Okay, and lives within the same chatzer.
Like a Ben Noach type of...
Basically, right? Menayin. How do I know that's also a problem? Now you're going to ask me, obviously logical question, logic could be backwards. It should be more obvious that you can't handle something that's closer to you. So Gemara is taking back. We'll see. We're going to ask the question. Talmud lomar, about that Torah comes to teach you. Lo yimaseh bevatechem. Chametz should not be in your house. I don't care whose it is. As long as it's in your house, it's a problem. Now, Eli, again, that only leaves me ela shebatechem. Okay, so fine. So you came to be very, very inclusive and take out and exclude and forbid chametz that is in your homes, no matter whose it is. Great. Okay. However, beborot, beshihin, ubame'arot, menayin. What if the chametz is not in your home? It's in other domains that you own and you handle. It's in a water cistern outside your property that you own, right? It's in a shiach. Shiach is a trench. In other words, it's not a residential property, but you have control of it. How do we know that's also asur? Right? It says bevatechem. Talmud lomar bechol gevulecha. It's in all of your domain, wherever is your domain, even if it's not a residential property, you cannot have chametz there. V'adayin, and still, I would still say, bevatim over mishum bal yara'eh ubal yimatzeh ubal yatmin ubal yikabel piktonot. We established 4 different prohibitions that will apply to you if you have a chametz of any sort in your house, under basically any circumstances. What are those 4 situations? Number 1, bal yara'eh, chametz should not be seen. Ubal yimatzeh, even if it's not seen, it should not exist in your property. Okay. Ubal yatmin, you're not allowed to hide it. Okay. Ubal yikabel piktonot min hanochri, nor are you allowed to receive deposits that are chametz from a non-Jew. All of these applies to bebatechem, in your house. Bigvulin shelcha, e'ata ro'eh, fine. In your gvul, it says lo yara chametz bechol gevulecha, should not be seen to you in all your domain. Fine. So in the rest of your domain, in your field, in your trenches, in your cisterns, in the bore, you cannot see chametz. I get that. However, aval ro'eh shel acherim shel gavoa. Menayin litan et ha'amur shel ze bazeh. How do I know that I have the ability and the right and the leeway to transfer the halachot that the Torah says in one category to the other, and then to the first one? Meaning you have 2 categories of prohibitions here. Same prohibitions, but mentioned regarding and expressed regarding 2 different categories. One is kol gevulecha, your property, your domain. There only says over there, lo yara'eh chametz bechol gevulecha shvat yamim. Okay? When it comes to bevatechem, we established it includes 4 different things. Yara'eh, yimatzeh, yatmin, you can't hide it, and you can't receive it from non-Jew either. Okay? So how do we know that we can transfer halachot from one to the other, and therefore, whether it's in your house or in your outside domain, all these prohibitions apply? How do we know that? Here we go. Okay? Make sense? Right, so far, okay. Talmud Omar, Seor ligzera shava. The word Seor appears in both these cases. And the Chachamim had a tradition. You can't make that up on your own. The word Seor is actually an equivalent word in both cases because it's coming to connect and bridge the two cases. Ne'emar Seor bevatechem. Seor, what does it say? Lo yimatzeh bevatechem. That's the language of yimatzeh in your house. Ne'emar Seor bigvulim. What does it say? Lo yara lecha Seor. It says Seor should be in your property, in your domain. Mas Seor ha'amur bebatim. Just like Seor, otherwise Chametz, that it mentions in your house, over mishum bal yira'eh, ubal yimatzeh, ubal yatmin, ubal yikabel mikol nochri. Chametz in your house establishes 4 different prohibitions, 4 different guidelines attached to it. The word Seor connects it, bridges it to the Gvulin. Af Seor, Hamur Begvulin, over mishum bal yira'eh, bal yimatzeh, ubal yatmin, right? Nochrim. So we bridged it that all those prohibitions equally apply to Chametz that's not in your house, but somewhere else in your domain that you have jurisdiction over. Uma, now go the other way. Uma seor hamur b'gvulin, and the seor that it says by gvulin, that it says by your property, it says lo yira'eh lecha. What is yira'eh lecha? We had an exception to the rule. It tells you that the chametz that is yours, but chametz that doesn't belong to you, i.e., belongs to a non-Jew, belongs to Hekdesh, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're allowed to see. We apply the halakha as a leniency the other way, that when it comes to the chametz in your house, yes, there are four possible prohibitions, but it only applies to your chametz, not that of a goy and not that of hekdesh that belongs to Hashem. The Gemara is going to ask very quickly, very obviously, the obvious question: how does it work? You tell me that you can't hide it, you can't take it from the goy, but you could see a goy's chametz, right? We'll see what that means. He's going to ask the question. Amar more. Now we're going to analyze what we just said now further and understand what's going on. Said the Chacham, En li ela ben ochri shelo kivashto en sharu imecha b'chatzer. The Gemara said that I would have only known that the prohibition of chametz of a nochri, of a non-Jew, only applies to a non-Jew that you have not dominated and it doesn't live with you in the chatzer. Nochri shekivashto sharu imecha b'chatzer benayin. Nochri that you do have jurisdiction over, you've dominated, so to speak, and lives within the same chatzer. How do I know? Right? How do I know? Tamuloma lo yimatzeh. To that it comes and says lo yimatzeh, no matter what the case is. The Gemara asks, klapelaya, which way is this going? This doesn't make sense. The direction you're drawing should be the opposite. Which, again, the idea is to give you responsibility and liability for chametz that's not yours, but somehow you're connected to, somehow you have jurisdiction over. Now, if it's a chametz of a non-Jew that you're somehow connected with, or at least you're adjacent to, right? Which case is it more mistaver? Is it more logical to say you have to worry about it when a non-Jew is beholden to you and lives in the chatzer, as opposed to a non-Jew who is not beholden to you, is on his own entirely and doesn't live with you in the chatzer, right? But you want to set it the other way. Your direction is off. Okay. Amar Abaye says that's a very good point. Epuch, I'll switch it. I'll learn it the other way. At the end of the same halakha question is just starting point, ending point. Which way do we know? Which way do we not know? Right? Rava says leolam la tepuch. Rava says no, you don't have to reverse it. Keep it as is. Okay. Ve'a reshakai, and this question and answer is referring to the resha, to the first half of that boraita. Which half? What part? What does it say? Shelcha taroem v'shel acherim v'shel gavoa. Your own chametz you cannot see, but you could see the chametz that belongs to others and belongs to hekdesh, right? On that they ask the following question: En li ela b'nochri shelo kivashto v'shel b'chatzer. That they say that chametz that you're allowed to see, there's a leniency. Maybe that should only apply to a non-Jew that you have no connection with, no domination over, and no adjacency to. But aval nochri shekivashto. That you dominate, that is beholden to you. How do I know that's also permissible? Says that yours is a problem, his is okay, even if you have jurisdiction over. But wait a second. The way you just learned it now, this boraita, this author, mihadar ahetera. The way you just tried to learn it now creatively, kudos to your creativity. We said, when the Torah says you can see other people's chametz, how do I know, even if the goy is related to you, related in terms of jurisdiction? Lo yimatzeh. Lo yimatzeh is the language of prohibition. You're looking for heter. You're looking to extend the heter. Pasuk you're quoting is a pasuk that's restrictive. Lo yimatzeh. Right? You want answers? right? ונוסיף לקראה, לאיסורה. The answer is משום, there's the answer, שנאמר, לך תרזימנה. It says, לא יימצא לך, and לא ייראה לך. The word לך, you could argue, in one end is going to be redundant. So what's going on here? Once it says lecha once, you get this idea, you get this concept that yes, your chametz is a problem, your yeast is a problem. Others people's chametz is not your problem, it's not your jurisdiction. Why does it twice again lecha? You know why? There's a concept in the Talmud called im eno inyan. Im eno inyan means, again, it's not a rational thing necessarily, but the Torah sometimes chooses to teach things that way. What does it mean? If I tell you the exact same lesson, the exact same point, and the exact same case twice, it makes no sense. You're going to tell me once. You know why I'm telling you a second time? Im eno inyan lekan. If it doesn't apply to the case because you already know it here, teno inyan applies to some other case. So what is it's coming to tell you that you might have thought that this idea that lecha ataroeh you can't see, but others you can see. That's only by a case that we have no connection to the goy. What if the connection to the goy is dominated by you? You have jurisdiction over him. How do I know that it's also okay? The answer is lecha twice to include it in that case.
Yeah, but it's twice lo yira'eh lecha.
Right. I mean, even though it's not inclusive in the words what the case is, right? Because it says twice, you know, to cover the first case and the second case. It covers both ends, right? Okay, almost there. Now, okay. Amar Mor, said the Chacham, another interesting question. Yachol yatmin likabel perek noah bin anochrim. I can go back to the very first Havamina Maskana, the very first notion and the answer we gave to try to analyze that. I would have thought that when it says lo yira'eh lecha means literally your chametz and your jurisdiction and your vision and your eyes and your property and your house. But you'll be allowed to either hide it and not see it, even if it's yours, or receive piktonot, deposits that don't belong to you from non-Jews. You can see it because it doesn't belong to you. Talmud lomar badad, the Torah comes to teach you, lo yimatzeh, you shouldn't have at all. Ha'amar resha, you just told me a second ago, shel chayata roeh, to shel acherim, shel gavoa. You have a contradiction. You told me 2 seconds ago, you are allowed to see other people's. Which means if a goy lives it by you, it should be okay. Now you tell me, no, you can't see a goy's either, you're a contradiction. La kashya, not a problem. The answer is very simple. The kabil ale ahrayut, very simple. If the non-Jewish person's chametz is in your domain, is in your property, and you assume liability, you assume responsibility for it, even though you don't own it, but virtue of being responsible for it, you have to worry about it. You have to get rid of it. But if it's left in your property without your permission, without the authorization, so you have no responsibility for it, somebody comes into your backyard, imagine, right? Okay? Brings an expensive, $10,000 dog into your backyard, ties the dog to your fence, and walks out without asking you. Right? Leaves any property in your property, right? Okay. And what happens? A big hawk comes and kills the dog, or he leaves something, it breaks. In all these cases, right? I don't ask you to bring it here. I'm not achrayus for it. It's not achrayut. So chametz was living without your authorization. You have not achrayut over. You leave it as be. I don't care. But if you have achrayut for it.
But achrayut doesn't only mean without your authorization. You can also give authorization. Just you don't take any achrayut.
If you tell the guy you can leave it here,
but I take
that's fine. Exactly, that's fine. Right. Exactly. Meaning, usually it's understandable. Once you say you can leave it here, if you stipulate, that's also good enough, right? Okay. Exactly. All right. Okay. So the key is ahrayut. If you have no responsibility for it, you can leave it there. You don't have to worry about it. Kiha da'amar lo Rava b'yivnei mechoza. An example of this concept, you see Rava, you still the people of the city. Ba'iru hamira divnei chayla hibataychu. The Babylonian, whoever the non-Jewish army was, would take advantage of the Jews. They would come and take food and all that, and they would also force the Jews to serve as storehouses for all their stuff. Like they would say, you know what, I'm leaving my wares, my weapons, my food here, don't touch it. You have no choice. So if they came and left chametz in your house, what do? Rava said, no, so you have to destroy it. Okay, now you get in trouble, obviously, right? Destroy it. Why? Kevan, because the ilum miganav, the ilum mitabir, if it gets stolen or breaks, guess who has to pay for it? You're responsible to pay for it. You have to pay. kedilchon dame. It's considered like yours, and therefore basur. You have to get rid of it. Okay, the Gemara says, that whole idea, the fact that you're responsible for it, is going to make it that is yours and your responsibility. That only fits into the mandam, dame. Okay, my hanichad makes sense. The mandamer, the opinion that holds. Davara gorem lemamon kemamon dame. Now, there's a concept called davar gorem lemamon. This means a situation where, essentially, our case over here, but I don't really own something, but nevertheless, the fact that I am responsible for it and I have to pay for it makes it as if it's mine. Okay? Ela laman da'amer, but there's an opinion that holds. Lav kemamon dame, a situation of mere responsibility doesn't make it that I have possession of the item. Maikar, how do you explain this case over here? What's the problem? Sha'anehacha, the answer to this case over here is different. Da'amar lo yimatzeh. But the fact that the Torah says twice lo yimatzeh, coming to eradicate, coming to tell you that in any way, any kind of chametz, if any connection with it has to be eradicated, that includes even chametz that you may not be achray for monetarily, as long as they're with your permission, you have to get rid of it.
So you still have to get rid of it.
Right? Even if, practically speaking, the liability to pay for in case of a damage doesn't make it yours. In this case, it does.
It doesn't say lo yimatzeh twice, just lo yireh twice.
Right, okay. Was the one that comes to teach you that in any way shouldn't be stealing property, right? Now, the fact that it said it says lecha is one that comes to include, right? But what it means, it shouldn't be seen or possessed in any way, whether you're hiding it, right? Okay, and that comes to tell you that even if you may not own it per se, because one opinion says responsibility to pay does not equate to owning something, la lecha, doesn't make a difference. The responsibility by itself is included in lo yimatzeh. You have to get rid of it. Okay, let's pause if you don't mind.